In the beginning came the beasts, and all that creeps, crawls, and flies. But nature lies. They're robots in disguise. Welcome to the Stasis Podcast. I'm Rob.
I'm David.
And I'm Jen.
And I'm Alex.
And welcome to the episode 0 of our podcast discussing the seminal 1996 to 1999 Beast Wars TV show. Every episode we'll be examining this series, which revitalized the Transformers franchise and brought it to where it is today. So, in this episode 0, we'll just be discussing essentially the state of the franchise in 1995, 1996, and how we got into it in the first place.
It was in bad shape.
It was in real bad shape.
Yeah.
So, after what has now been dubbed Generation 1 ended in 1990, it lay fallow for a couple of years, in North America at least, and then was briefly revived from 93 to 95 with Transformers Generation 2, which was initially a bunch of repaints, and a smattering of new figures, eventually leading up to all new figures in 1995, but it just wasn't a big hit.
I was totally into it, but
I loved it too.
I am an exception in many things.
I completely ignored Generation 2.
And that is sort of how I got into Transformers. And it had some media tie-ins. It had a 12-issue comic series. It had reruns of Generation 1 brought to you by the magic of the Cybernet Space Cube.
Oh, the creepy, simple CG cube spinning around.
That's my SSID name.
And despite the Generation 2 being where I got my start in being a fan of Transformers, I never ran into the 12-issue comic or the reruns of G1 featuring the Cybernet Space Cube until, I got into the fandom proper in, the 2000s.
Oh, wow.
Aww, that's sad.
So I did not even know there was fiction.
That is surprising. That Generation 2, I think, was pretty heavily syndicated.
Yeah.
It wasn't at that time, immediately before Generation 2, as the TV show. The Sci-Fi Channel, in its early days, ran an animation block on weekday mornings of the original Transformers, a little bit cut for commercial time. Nothing too significant except the entirety of one of Skids' 2 lines. And Robotech, which was actually where I first discovered Robotech. And then some other things, Gigantor at one point, the actual original black and white Gigantor.
They had the color one later, but that's Transformers.
They would show some of those terrifying Gary Anderson puppet things. But when they started doing Generation 2, the episodes that they used for Generation 2 were pulled out of the rotation on the Sci-Fi Channel. So for a little bit, they were still showing it, but minus those 13 episodes from the first season they did of Generation 2. And then they just got to a point where they stopped showing it entirely, probably because there were just, too much fussing over the rights for it versus Hasbro wanting to pull some of them for G2, and probably wasn't worth it for them at that point.
It may have even dipped below the syndication threshold.
That is entirely possible, because I believe once it went weekdays, that's normally 52 episodes?
I think so, yes.
Something along those lines, and the series as a whole was only, a little over 100, so yeah, it may very well have dropped below the threshold for Sci-Fi to even bother showing it.
But anyway, none of this, the comics, the TV show, or the toys, were not that popular.
No. The comic book ran for, 12 issues is not a great run for any comic book.
No,
and especially not in the 90s, when you could put out 35 issues of Silver Sable in the Wild Pack.
Yeah. You could put out and have me purchase an embarrassingly long run of Punisher 2099.
It was a comic that heavily featured a character called G, Axis, and they did.
They did indeed.
Yeah.
So it turns out you couldn't just sell the same stuff that you were selling in the 80s and, slap some neon paint and giant missile launchers on it.
But the neon and the giant missile launchers.
And the
They were all
top
good,
boxes.
I do think that Generation 2 is something that really highlighted the contradiction of that sort of entertainment in the 90s, because you had those bright neon colors, but then you had, say, with the comic book, where everything was very intentionally dark and gritty to the point of having a lot of, ink splatter to the art and a very, very, gritty looking thing, and have these toys being bright colors. The other thing that comes to mind as really embodying that kind of contradiction of the 90s was actually something that later Transformers brand manager Aaron Archer worked on, which was the Batman Night Force Ninja line, where Batman and all of his assorted associated characters were just neon-colored ninjas, which is...
I am the night, color me puce.
But G2 definitely had a lot of that contradiction going on, where it was
I love those avant-garde striking color schemes.
The colors are actually really nice to look back on.
Yeah.
One of my favorite G2 toys to this day is a teal-green truck with magenta flames just kind of splattered on
Turbo Fire.
Contrasting colors.
One of the first Transformers toys I ever got.
So shall we all discuss how we got into Transformers and what our relationship was with Beast Wars and what's new?
Sure.
Okay.
Sounds like a plan.
Shall I lead off?
Go ahead.
Okay, well, I was born in 85, so I sort of got into the tail end of it. The Micromasters and the odd Pretender. But I really only got into it big time with Generation 2 when I was sort of hitting that prime boys action figure market age. And, I read the few issues of the comic that made it onto the newsstand, which ended with number 7. So I didn't know how it ended until years later. I just assumed that it had been canceled. And yes, I watched the show via the magic of the Cybernet Space Cube.
Yay!
And I really liked the toys. And then, around 95, they just sort of dried up, and I figured, well, that's it. They're not making Transformers anymore. And then on a early, I believe a weekday morning in April, I caught the pilot of Beast Wars. And initially I had no idea what it was. And I think this was around the same time that we also got the first commercial for Beast Wars. This was 1996, and I had yet to discover the internet. So things just sort of, when you saw things on TV for the first time, you had no idea they were coming. They just showed up.
Yeah. And yours was a slightly different flavor since you're Canadian, so you had...
Beasties.
Yeah.
But I lived in Chatham, which was close enough to the U.S. border that we got TV signals from Detroit.
So you could get kids' shows with wars in the title.
Yes, so I saw that Beast Wars pilot from, it was either Detroit or Cleveland, but one of those. And then, it was on the next day, and then it wasn't on after that, so I assumed it was just the 1 hour pilot. That was it. They weren't making any more.
Yeah, which seemed to happen a lot in the 90s.
Yeah,
and then that fall, YTV, which is a Canadian station, started advertising for a show called Beasties.
Beasties!
I didn't make the connection.
No, because it's
since
close.
They said it was from the makers of Reboot, which I enjoyed, I tuned in, and it turned out to be Beast Wars.
Yeah, my story's kind of... Well, I'm older than Rob by a bit, so I was the target age for the cartoon.
How old are you, David?
1977 I was born.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm
Good Lord.
yeah. Anyway, so I was the target. Like, that was like when I was first getting into actually reading comics. And like, well, my cousin would give me some comics, but old Marvel stuff. But the first one I kept getting was Transformers. I got a subscription at the store. And I actually ordered a subscription that came to my house eventually. So I fell in love with that 4-issue limited series that became 80 issues. That's still one of my favorite comic blurbs ever at the top of the last issue. Issue 80 in a 4-issue limited series.
Yeah, like,
that was brilliant.
We outlasted the odds.
Yes, so there was that. So I was watching the cartoon. I had that, I had the toys. And at some point after the comic ended and the cartoon was gone, it was like, it started getting past the Pretenders. There was Micromasters and there was Action Masters. It's like, they don't transform anymore. I don't care about Transformers anymore. So I stopped. So I never saw any G2 toys. I saw the comic. I didn't read it. I didn't pick it up. So I was in a Transformers no-go zone for quite a while until, like Rob, I saw a commercial for, hey, it's a show made by the people that made Reboot. I really liked Reboot. It's like, wait, this is Transformers? Okay. And I fell into that. But I fell into the show. I never actually got any Beast Wars toys. I was just watching another cartoon. And there I go.
I guess I could go next.
Yeah, you're our fandom veteran.
Yeah.
You had the internet.
Well, no, I didn't even have the internet until Beast Wars was starting, but what I had...
I didn't have it until, like, after Beast Wars was done.
What I had was an idea that there was a fan community out there, mostly organized through Usenet, mostly college students who had college internet, because in the earlier 90s, in the mid-90s, most of the people on the internet were college students who had college internet. At that point, at the beginning of G2, sort of my origin story was when I went into a Toys R Us and saw the re-release G1 Cars, Jazz, and Sideswipe and Inferno, and saw an Optimus Prime. And this was December, right before Christmas in 92, I believe it was. So this was, these had probably just been put on the shelves. And that just hit home for me. I remembered everything from when I was younger. I remembered how much I had been into Transformers as a kid, because I was born in 78. So, I was also that sort of target audience. I had a pretty humble country upbringing. I lived in the middle of nowhere. I was aware that comic books were a thing, but I hadn't really gotten any until I was, I'd say around 6th grade or so. And at that point, at that point it was Ninja Turtles, not of course original Ninja Turtles, but and it was like a couple that I would pick up from a newsstand when I went with my mother to run errands for her job. So I had like maybe 5 comic books until this point when I saw those G2 toys on the shelf and just everything sort of came back to me. I checked around the TV schedule until I found that Sci-Fi was showing them, and I actually remember the first episode that I caught on Sci-Fi Channel was The God Gambit, which is one of those fun second season episodes where it's trying really hard to be serious sci-fi. And
not quite succeeding.
Not quite. And I was really into going to used bookstores and getting older books, and I started digging through the stacks there for the Marvel comics. And I'm sure if I had never discovered the comics, and especially if I had never discovered Simon Furman's work, I would not be talking about this today, because I might have ended up back with it with Beast Wars, because it was so well written. But what really kept me into it was seeing that there were these stories that I could appreciate as a 14, 15, 16-year-old. So I like to say that, as this little scrawny teenager with dyed black hair and my flannel shirt and my biker jacket over my Alice in Chains t-shirt, I totally was the target audience for the G2 comic. And it's just a shame that there weren't more people like me out there.
Yeah.
But I read the G2 comic as it came out, and it left an impression on me. I picked up as many of the toys as I could get a hold of. I would obsessively record the G1 cartoons off of Sci-Fi Channel. I still have a box somewhere that I really need to unload of VHS tapes of those episodes that are just in such bad shape.
Ooh.
Because I didn't foresee DVDs and also I didn't foresee people actually caring about Transformers. So that was my attempt at being an archivist about them. And I still remember, towards the end of high school, a friend of mine who's actually still involved with the fandom, Chip, came over to my place because I was going to show him Carnage in C minor because it was the worst episode in the history of G1. And my
That's
mother...
up for debate, but...
Yeah. It's bad, though.
It's the top 3.
It definitely. And my mother had recorded over it with some stupid movie, and I was just freaked out because I was never going to be able to access this episode again. Which, now it's on Netflix streaming, and just, I've got like 2 different DVD issues of all of it, so this was, and this I think ties in a lot to where Transformers was during G2, which was in the pop culture reject pile. No one cared about this stuff. I got the Transformers the movie VHS tape right before it went out of print. It was just stuff that no one really cared about. I got toys at yard sales, and I never really expected. It's funny. When I was in high school, I really wanted to at some point get a tattoo of an Autobot symbol. But I thought to myself, in 15 or 20 years, who's even going to know what that is?
No, that's hilarious.
And that's actually even more recognizable now than it was when I was in high school. And so from the letters pages of the comics that I was piecing together a collection of, I managed to get in touch with some people who were still involved in the fan community. Leon Elliott, Tony Buchanan being 2 of the bigger ones. And from that, I started doing my own fanzine because I loved writing fan fiction and putting, bringing other people's fan art and fan stories to everyone's attention. And so I went to, my first BotCon was in 95, and I was this scrawny little 16-year-old with dyed black hair and, passing out my fanzine to people. And I admit that when Beast Wars started, I was definitely in the truck not monkey category. Because to me, I felt firmly, because I was 16 and I had all these, and 17, going on, and I had all these ridiculous, super deep, crazy ideas about how their mechanical nature was what made them a superior life form, and by making them partially organic, it was just bringing them down to our pathetic level, and humanity is stupid, and I hate it.
Yeah, that's that.
So I can definitely look back on it and see that where my opinion was not even necessarily formed by not wanting change, but formed by these really obnoxious teenage sci-fi addict nerd ideas about humanity and the nature thereof. So I paid attention to it though because it was the next Transformers thing. I caught the premiere when it showed in April of that year, and that was actually during my last year of high school, my last spring of high school. And I did know it was coming on because I saw it in the TV schedule back in the days when you would get this great big guide that had all the TV schedules.
I think it came on clay tablets.
Yeah, they had a carrier personally come up to your house on a horse with a clay tablet to give you your TV schedule. And I saw it there in the grid and it said Beast Wars. I was like, oh hey, they're doing a cartoon for it, I guess. And I saw it and I actually perhaps to post along with one of these, I'll have to see if I can find my review I wrote of it for my fanzine, which turned out to be the last issue of my fanzine for various reasons, primarily because then I finally did get the internet. And so I was able to
print media
post...
vanished.
Yeah, and I still remember, I think it was BotCon 96, I think it's the guy who runs Cybertron.com, had the first fanzine printed in color. I was like, oh man, I think it was only like 4 pages.
Must have been a veritable Gutenberg moment at the time.
Yes, it was pretty amazing. And that actually, I remember, had a picture of Beast Wars Megatron from the cartoon on it. So, oh my god, color printing. That was like high end back then. So yeah, I wrote up a review of it, and my review was actually, this isn't written terribly. Optimus Primal is not a bat for some reason, and Megatron is not a crocodile. But
yeah, that very short window when that happened.
Yeah, because at that point, you know, we weren't kept up to date the way that we are now. Even the people who were on the internet, who were on Alt Toys Transformers. I would like to point out that at one point when I was in high school, a guy flirted with me by printing me out Steve Stonebreaker's Alt Toys Transformers FAQ from home where he had the internet. And I would carry it around in a folder in my backpack for a little while. Because I was the biggest nerd in the world. I was the punkest nerd. And so yeah, when it finally showed up, I wrote a review and I mentioned that it had a bunch of toys that we hadn't seen anything about yet, but that would presumably be showing up. Because at that point, basically, we knew about toys when they showed up in a catalog somewhere. I mean, even being involved in the fandom, in the whole fan scene at the time, I would still be able to go to the store and see a toy that I didn't know was coming out. Which was, those are some days I missed there, yeah. So I wrote my review of that and then discovered the internet and was able to post my fanfic on my own website that had tiled wallpaper that was like this grayscale Autobot symbol and like a little graphic at the top of like Cybertron from Beast Wars, and it was
Did it have any flame gifs on it?
No, it did not, because even then I had decided that was too tacky. and it was hosted on AOL though. So yeah, just as in the early days of Beast Wars, that was when I got on the internet, was 97 or so. And the rest, I would say, is history.
Alex?
All right. Alex is our junior member, and I believe you are up.
Yep, I am the baby of the group. I was born in 1988.
Aww.
Not that much younger than Rob.
And among my earliest memories are not even getting, but just having G2 Beachcomber, G2 Rapido, G2 Turbofire, G2 Afterburner, and for some reason that I have absolutely no explanation for, a like pastel pink, purple, and green Easter basket knockoff of G1 Sludge.
That sounds brilliant.
And very pretty.
I am sad that it's at a Goodwill somewhere.
Aww.
But anyway, I just had Transformers toys, and my parents were always good about keeping me away from the toy aisle so I wouldn't beg for stuff, and I just got stuff for Christmas and birthday instead. And I think at that point Easter, and yeah, those were probably the big three at that point. So I'd get Transformers as one of the big things that I got, and then I had a close friend who I'd go over to their house to hang out and play with, who just had oodles of G.I. Joe, which I didn't care about at all, and G2 Transformers, like half of the G2 Superion, half of G2 Bruticus, maybe more than half, but like without any of the combiner kibble, so I never knew they combined into anything until way later. And like Combat Hero Optimus Prime and Combat Hero Megatron, so I was around all these toys, and I loved them, and I saw the commercials on TV, like that CGI Generation 2 commercial of Optimus Prime with the voice pack where he talked.
I am Optimus Prime.
Yep, and then later on, like the commercials for, was it the Power Dasher? No, Rotoforce. The Rotoforce commercials, which I'm pretty sure had Gary Chalk voicing one of the
Yes,
Rotoforce
Gary Chalk
guys.
is definitely in those G2 commercials.
Yes.
I think he's also
major
Superion.
fiction. I would believe that.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm seeing these commercials on TV for these toys, some of which I see my friend has, none of which I think I ever ended up having. I don't think I had any that were actually advertised that got animated on those commercials. And then the Beast Wars commercial shows up, and it's like, oh, okay. I've seen Optimus Prime be two different kinds of trucks before that were significantly different. I'll buy an alligator. Not that I ever actually bought the alligator, because, like I said, the parents were kind of in control of the purse strings at that point and didn't take me to the toy aisle.
Yeah, as a sad aside, I would like to point out that in like 98, I had my wisdom teeth taken out, and I was super drugged up, and I caught a ride to Walmart with my parents and tried to get them to buy me Terrorsaur because I was super drugged up and had just had my wisdom teeth taken out, and they would not buy me Terrorsaur.
Oh, that's horrible.
My parents are jerks.
And, you know, he was like $5 in 1995.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I was 18. I had a job, but you know, it would have been nice that they felt sorry for me. Anyway, sorry, go on.
Anyway, so basically, I saw that first Beast Wars commercial with the Victor Crowley narration that we had so wonderfully recreated for us at the beginning of this episode. And then I was probably just downstairs with the TV on because all the stuff that I had to play with was downstairs and the TV was downstairs, and it was scary down there if I didn't have something to make noise. So whenever I was down there in the mornings, either on weekdays during the summer or on weekends, if I was getting up early for the Saturday morning blocks, I'd have the TV on, and then, hey, here's a full TV show version of those commercials for those cool toys I like. This is awesome. And then it turned out to be really well written, and it was the one I always went out of my way to watch. I don't know if I caught the first episode when it first premiered or not. I'm gonna guess not. But I probably managed to watch it through in syndication 2 to 3 times, and while I did not actually have that much control over my journeys to the toy aisle, I did get to see toy catalogs sometimes, so I'd put the ones that I wanted on my wish list for next major gift-receiving holiday. And also, I got a computer from my grandfather that kind of the entire family shared, and I had limited control over, and we had the internet by like 94, 95, and it was like the real internet, not AOL, by 96.
Ooh.
Oh,
So
man.
during some of those supervised going online sessions where the parents are hovering over my shoulder, at least in the same room, and kind of freaking out and making sure I'm not, you know, giving out personal information about where to kidnap me to strangers online, because that was a concern back then.
Oh, yeah.
And I, stumbled across Ben's World of Transformers. Was it even called that back then, or was it just called BeastWarsTransformers.com or BWTF?
BWTF back then.
And then he justified continuing to cover stuff post-Beast Wars by naming it after himself.
Well,
And-
you know.
So, while I was watching the show, and while I was getting some of the toys on occasions and hanging out with this friend who was still getting all these toys, and I was looking at just kind of this bizarre window into the fandom online and seeing, oh, there's a convention of people who like this stuff as much as I do. I wish I could go to there, but I won't be able to for, a decade.
If it makes you feel better, it was tiny. I mean, it was awesome, but it was tiny.
But, where else could you get cake and water at Noom?
I
Inside
like
joke.
I like to say that BotCon, I enjoyed BotCon because it was where I could tell jokes about Starscream and people would get them.
Yeah.
It was sad being me.
Okay, so I think that does everybody. So shall we let it be here on this strange, unknown internet, and let it be called the Stasis Podcast?
Donna,
This podcast.
Donna, Donna, Donna.
And then there's some wailing guitars we pull out dramatically.
That guitar music was so great.
This first season is going to be really cheesy, guys.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But it's the best kind of cheesy.
I remember around when it first came out on DVD, 2004, 2005, when people were just first starting to get HD TVs too. I had another friend whose house I'd hang out at constantly who they'd just gotten like the huge, like they built a home theater addition to their house and got like a gigantic, like a subwoofer that is as tall as like a 4-foot tall person and about the same shape. And a wall-filling screen and an upscaling DVD player, and I watched some of the early episodes, and I remember at the time thinking, this still looks pretty good, and I am imagining there is no way in hell I will think that now.
I hope... I haven't actually really seen Beast Wars since it aired. I've seen a few episodes like a few years ago. I rewatched Beast Machines like 3 or 4 years ago, but I haven't seen Beast Wars as a whole since back then. Yeah, it's maybe a bad idea, guys.
When it was on, I would sometimes watch episodes. And like I said, I was weirdo, obsessive kid. I would sometimes watch episodes over and over, so I still have a pretty good memory of all of them. I did try to watch it when I saw it was on Netflix with my poor roommate, who was like 23 years old, and so I'm always like, oh my god, Zach, we have to watch Back to the Future. We have to watch this or that other thing that you haven't seen. We have to watch the original RoboCop. It's like, no, but I've seen it before. But you saw a TV edit, and that doesn't count.
You didn't see them turn Alex Murphy into Play-Doh.
Exactly. If you saw
a TV
edit of RoboCop, it doesn't count.
I haven't even seen RoboCop, and I know a TV edit of RoboCop isn't RoboCop.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever seen the actual R-rated version.
We got through a few
HBO.
episodes of it before he refused to watch anymore, even though I insisted that it really picked up in the second season. He was like, it's not worth it.
Oh, he's going to have to watch it all over again.
I don't think we even made it to the low road. Also, when it was originally on, at one point I was watching, it was the morning that the low road first aired. And I was getting up at like 7 or 8 in the morning to watch it, and I was out of high school at that point, and I worked like a retail job, so I was making an effort to actually be up at a certain time. And my sister, who is a younger sister and was an extra snarky high schooler at that point, she came out of the basement right at the ending of the low road. And if you've seen the low road, or if you remember the low road, you will understand why she gave me this look that was like, this is what you've been getting up at 7 or 8 in the morning to watch.
I don't remember what episode.
Spoilers, robot farts.
Yeah.
Oh, it's that episode. Oh, God.
It's
Yes, the low road
just...
is the 23-minute setup for a fart joke.
Oh,
yes,
I do remember
with
that.
a big fart punchline, and my sister was just like, what the hell is wrong with you?
I'm actually concerned. I mean, I remember the stories and the voice acting being good. The animation itself probably won't hold up.
It's very good for 1995.
Well, fart jokes aside, the writing should be good.
It's very expressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
makes
talking
it
about
trouble
like
with
the
water.
textures and the lack of shading.
Lack of shadowing.
Yeah, also nobody has shadows and it looks weird, but...
Yeah. And it took them until like season 3 to really get the hang of water.
Yes.
Yeah.
And thankfully they didn't have any aquatic characters until then, so that helped.
Yeah. Well, I believe they like intentionally did not have Hammer Shark...
Cyber Shark.
They were going to have him in season 2 and didn't because they couldn't do water well enough.
What is difficult?
I'm actually really excited to experience the show from that standpoint because as a profession I've gotten more involved in 3D modeling and the technology behind it, and I remember even at the time being aware that the animation of it was really good. And also I remember along the line somewhere that I was informed that for some incredibly bizarre reason they just animated scenes and didn't storyboard anything until like season 3. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what kind of effect that had on their process.
I do remember at one point at BotCon, Bob Forward showing us a storyboard that he had drawn for an episode in which Rampage was just drawn as this great, like, seafood restaurant-looking mascot crab. It was just this ridiculous cartoon crab.
He was Seafood Louie.
Yes, that was Seafood Louie.
Oh, in gags.
Yeah, a lot of Beast Wars was sort of made up on the fly, as we'll come to find out.
Yes, I'm definitely interested in seeing if the writing holds up as well as I remember, because, I mean, as for instance, Exo Squad, which was one of my favorite shows when I was the teenager, I went back and tried to rewatch recently, and I think it was one of those things where I hadn't really seen a cartoon until then try to pull off that kind of storytelling. But now I've seen so many do it that it really pales in comparison to people who have come since who have done that sort of thing better. And so I'm curious to see how well Beast Wars will show up. But given my memories of it, I mean, I expect it probably does still, the storytelling holds up perfectly well. We will see.
I mean, we got a Transformers series after this that was largely handled by people who did a large number of scripts for this, and it was pretty good too.
Yeah.
And then we got Robots in Disguise, and then we got Armada.
Robots in Disguise is okay.
It's acceptable.
Robots in Disguise is a show.
Yeah.
I was not actually referring to Beast Machines with that.
Ah.
I assume, was it...
Animated?
Yeah, Animated had basically
half the staff of Beast Wars or something?
Yeah, a decent chunk of the writing staff were the...
And also Marty Eisenberg from Beast Machines.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
And then I think Eisenberg's done some stuff for Prime as well.
Yeah, I think so. As opposed to Greg Weisman, who did an episode for Prime that was just all about shipping, which is, I guess, what you would expect from Greg Weisman.
Yeah, that sounds like the Greg Weismaniest thing.
Shipping? Was it a Knockout episode?
Yeah, there was Knockout.
I think he was in it.
And there was also...
mostly it was about Ernie Hudson and Marky Post hanging out.
Oh,
yeah, it was
that must have been in
mostly
the
about
period of
Agent
Prime,
Fowler and Jack's mom being tied up in a trunk together.
Oh.
You know, it was like out of sight.
Yeah.
But please join us on this voyage of discovery to this strange primitive world, and we'll see you all next time on the Stasis Pod. I'm Rob.
The Beast Wars podcast. Oh yeah, and we'll hopefully have an iTunes eventually.
It's pretty easy to set up.
We got a Twitter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do a Twitter.
Yay.
We are the Stasis Pod. Or Stasis Pod. Wait, is it? It's just Stasis. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get the hang of it.
Yeah, we'll figure.
That's why this is the episode 0.
Yep. I'm Jen. Bye.
I'm David. Bye bye.
I'm Alex. Bye.
Ba-da. Ba-da, ba-da, ba-da.
It actually just is Stasis Pod, and we have a Gmail. I think.
Yay!
I think that might be Stasis.
Next time on the Stasis Pod.
We'll have our shit together.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, we have a Tumblr. We should have a Tumblr.
Tumblrs are good.
Did I sign up for a Tumblr? I don't remember.
If not, I'm sure we can set one up. Tumblrs.
Well, we have Jen. Wait, you have? Is it? What's your website? This is
Icon Underground.
okay. It'll be there.
I'm already spending money I can't afford on hosting it, so we might as well put something good there.
Yay!
Okay.
Yay!
I just know one day I was bored and I bothered to check. Oh, there's a Stasis Pod Twitter. No, there isn't. Now there is. Oh, yes, I did do it. Ha! I did get Stasis Pod Tumblr. I am so smart. I am.
You're a genius.
Yes, MRT.
Yay!
And begin? Maybe?
Okay, everybody is ready?
Yeah, I guess so.
Ready as I'm gonna be.
Alright. In the beginning came the beasts, and all that creeps, crawls, and flies. But nature lies. They're robots in disguise. Welcome to the Stasis Podcast. I'm Rob.
Rob, do that again. I was hearing the clicking. Sorry! I want that part without the clicking. If the clicking shows up later, I can get it around. But
In the beginning came the beasts, and all that creeps, crawls, and flies. But nature lies. They're robots in disguise. Welcome to the 80-page blurg. God damn it.
Sorry. The Stasis Pod, Beast Wars Pod. Yeah, now we got to record this in our brains and get it to stay there.
The Stasis Podcast.
Yes.
Welcome to the Stasis Podcast. I'm Rob.
Now I have to edit around that. You were cutting into.
You want me to do it a third time?
Yes, please.
Alright.